We could not
Oh,
find a
wow.
manufacturer. We ended up finding a tamale factory. We're literally making baby food by hand. Little corner of this room. It was incredibly hard.
Where did
Yeah.
the first customers come from?
We actually launched with a wait list. There was no wait list. The wait list was fake. We got approved in a few regions of Whole Foods.
Hold on, but like how?
Started exhibiting at a couple expos, got in front of buyers, fully thought we were going to launch there. We got stuck in kind of this like internal corporate limbo at Whole Foods.
You think early brands should be going to expos?
I think it really depends on what your goals are. Decided to launch direct to consumer. Honestly, never looked back. We sold over 1 million meals in that first year, which was so crazy. Thanks Whole Foods for jerking us around.
I want to know how much it cost to start this thing.
$200,000 in
Okay.
savings. This was all bootstrapped, by the way. We've sold over 80 million meals. We just really tried to create local buzz. Target was just the best partner. We launched with 23 SKUs across 6 categories in 1,800 of their stores. It's the biggest food and beverage launch in Target's history.
Wow. Hey, business besties, welcome back to Female Founder World. I'm Jasmine, I'm the host of the show, and today I'm chatting with the Chief Product Officer and co-founder of Little Spoon, Angela Vranich. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, people that don't know Little Spoon, what are you guys building?
So at Little Spoon, we are on a mission to make parents' lives easier and kids healthier. We are the only one-stop shop platform where you can get baby, toddler, and big kid food. So we started in 2017 with a line of fresh baby food, and ever since then have been growing with our customers. So today we have over 120 products on our platform, and we serve up to age 7.
People who are watching this on Spotify or if you're on YouTube, you can actually see some of the products on the table in front of us as well, so you can get a feel for what it is that you guys create. I also want to call out some milestones because you hit really big milestones last year, just to help people understand like the sheer scale of what you guys have done. It's incredible. 40 million sold. Is that right?
80 million.
80 million.
Yeah, well, 80 million to date meals sold.
Your team is 100
Yeah, we're 110 now.
and you've just, as of like this week while we're talking, rolled out into Target as well.
Yes, we launched in retail for the very first time after 7 years in
Wow.
business.
Congratulations. Okay. The stuff that I want to talk to you about, I want to talk about the early years in the business, like the stuff that worked and how you got traction and lessons for the rest of us who are like there right now. And then versus what's growing the business and where you see things that are pushing the needle in 2025, because like these are very different landscapes.
Mhm.
And I also want to talk about this like D2C versus wholesale piece of the business as well, because I'm really curious about this because you were going to launch into wholesale, didn't happen, and probably a blessing in disguise, really.
Yes.
So I want to talk about that for everyone who's sitting around thinking, I just need to get into Whole Foods or Target and like all of my problems will be over, and why you've kind of like done it, the pace why you've done it. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning, 2017. Tell me the origin story. Where did the idea come from? Like, what was this baby food, toddler food market like at the time?
Yes. So I identified the opportunity well before 2017. I started working on it in 2014, actually. I was working in the food space with my husband, who was my then boyfriend. He was also in the food space. Identified an opportunity in baby food in particular. At the time, there was just this whole shift toward fresh. So fresh juices. There were 10 fresh pet food brands. Everywhere you turned, everything that was shelf stable was being made fresh and put in the refrigerated set. Baby food was one category that had not been touched. So I did not have kids. I still don't have kids, but I looked at the baby food set and I saw an opportunity to create a fresh, better for you baby product. So set out to create Little Spoon. It took a couple years to get off the ground because at the time there were no fresh baby food brands. So had to build out a whole manufacturing facility, custom packaging, and really like get to a place where we could commercialize it, which took quite a while. But that's, and we officially launched in 2017, but really took a bit to get to that point.
And you were, when I was looking at your story before this, like you were pretty entrepreneurial before this business started. Like, what was your background?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I had actually started a marketing company for natural and organic food and beverage brands. It was like a little business that grew pretty organically into a big business. I had several dozen independent contractors working for me around the
Oh, wow.
country doing demos and merchandising, and so that was kind of like my first foray into the food CPG space and was just always in and around it, had friends working in the space and always just tracking trends and keeping my eye out, and I knew I wanted to start something else after that, and that was Little Spoon.
But sounds like that would have been working and you're like pretty young at the time. I can imagine like that actually could have been something that you just like pursued and grew that. Why did you decide to shut that down to do this?
I honestly it really was just like this little business that grew into something much larger, but it wasn't something that really interested me. Like I did not want to be
Mm.
employing dozens of independent contractors and figuring out demos and merchandising for products. Like, I wanted to have a brand and a product of my own, so I ultimately decided to just shut it down and go a different direction.
I understand that. I also feel like that's something I hear a lot from people who are like agency owners or freelancers. That kind of, I can do the thing for other people, but I want my own baby to grow. Like I want my
Yeah.
own business that I'm building.
Yeah.
So you launched in 2017. What did you launch with? What was the first product?
So we launched with 10 SKUs of
That's a
baby
lot,
food.
no?
Not
Not compared to
really. Yeah,
now.
not compared to now, but
You've
even
got
back
10 like
then.
just on this side of the table.
Yeah, like, our initial insight, though, was, like, we need more flavors because
Right.
people wanted they want to expose their kids to different
Yeah.
ingredients, and so, we only had 10. It really wasn't that many, and a few of them were single ingredients, so that was, like, our first real learning was, like, we gotta get some more flavors and some more assortment for people because I think people would just get bored and fatigued
And
after a while.
what was your launch plan? Like you've got this product. I'm assuming that actually like creating the thing would have been super, super hard because that feels like a category that probably has a lot of red tape around it.
Yes. It was incredibly hard because no one had ever made fresh baby food before. We could not
Oh
find a
wow.
manufacturer who even wanted to make it for us because obviously there's a lot of liability
Yes.
associated with making baby food. And we were using a new food technology called high pressure processing that, was an alternative to thermal pasteurization. So there were a lot of nuances with that. It was what allowed us to keep the product refrigerated, but also safe, so it could be sold in a retail environment. No one had ever used it for baby food before, so we had to run a lot of tests. We had to develop custom packaging, which was time consuming and expensive.
Mm.
And like I said, we couldn't find a manufacturer, so really had to go out and get creative. And we ended up finding a tamale factory in Los Angeles, owned by a
Whatever
guy,
works.
yeah, owned by a guy named Pascal, who had an open mind and extra space in his factory and was like, "You can have, like, a little corner of this room." And what Pascal did have that we needed was a gigantic steamer because he was steaming tamales, and we needed to steam produce to go into the baby
This is
food.
amazing.
Yeah, so we basically outfit this little space within a space. We brought in some consultants to help us, like, build out a whole, like, HACCP plan and process to make sure everything was, like, we were following good manufacturing practices and kind of, like, popped up this little manufacturing spot inside the tamale factory, and we're literally making baby food by hand.
Wild. Okay, where did
Yeah.
the first customers come from in the early days?
So, initially, we actually thought we were gonna launch into retail. We got approved in a few regions of Whole Foods, but ended up,
Hold
like,
on, but like how? I feel
how
like
did we get
that's so
approved?
hard. That's so hard to do. People look
Yeah.
around for years before that happens.
So we created an MVP of the product.
Yeah.
This was all bootstrap, by the way, like, we were using savings
Mm.
to fund the business at the time. Created an MVP of the product and started exhibiting at a couple expos, got in front of a couple Whole Foods buyers. So there were 2 regions of Whole Foods at that time. They did their buying on a regional level. Now I think they do most of their buying on a global level. So you had to get approved region by region. We got approved in the Rocky Mountain region and we got approved in the SoPac region. And we fully thought we were gonna launch there. Even to the point where they were like, "There's no destination for fresh baby food, but we'd love for you to put coolers in line in the baby food aisle in the
Oh
middle of the
wow.
store." So we were like, "Amazing. We will buy you coolers." We literally went to China, sourced, like, 3 containers of coolers that we bought there, had all these coolers, we'd done our first production run of food, and then we got stuck in kind of this, like, internal corporate limbo at Whole Foods where they were passing us around because they'd never sold fresh baby food before, and so they were
Mm.
like, "We need you to fill out this mountain of paperwork, and then you need to talk to this person," and there was just all this turnover internally there. People quit or people left. By the time we got approval, the buyer that had brought us in, he had already gone. The new buyer wasn't necessarily
People
interested
don't
in.
talk about this enough. Like the buyers move around, and all of
Yeah,
a sudden your like relationship completely changes, and your
100%.
contract is like off on the hook. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got sick of waiting around for them, decided to launch direct to consumer. So our coolers are still sitting in a storage facility somewhere in Torrance, California. We pay for them every month. But we launched direct to consumer in 2017 and we honestly never looked back. It was truly the best thing that could have ever happened to us. We sold over 1,000,000 meals in that first year, which was
Wow.
so crazy. And I think it really was the best thing that ever happened to us. So thanks, Whole Foods, for jerking us around.
Okay, so you sold a million in the first year. That is wild. 2017 is a different time to now. Were you doing spending a lot on paid ads at the time? I feel like a lot of brands that I speak to did that.
So It's funny because performance marketing, it was still kind of, like, in its infancy back then.
Mhm.
It wasn't as, like, robust of an engine as it is now. Back then, when we actually launched with a wait list, so, like, wanted to create some buzz and excitement around it even though, like, there was no wait list. The wait list was fake. But it was more so just for us to, like, regulate the number of people that could buy the product because we
Yes.
wanted to make sure that the experience is what we wanted it to be and, like, work out kinks. So launch with a wait list. What really worked well for us in the beginning, and this was back then, was like grassroots marketing efforts. Our first hire was a grassroots marketing person here in New York who was going to like probably 3 events a day. Fitness classes, mommy and me events, like anything where we could find like our relevant demo, she was popping up and sampling everywhere.
Interesting.
She was all over the city, like, at all times, and we just really tried to create local buzz around Little Spoon and really did that in a concentrated way in New York and then in San Francisco, which is where I was living at the time.
I love the idea of, a few people I've spoken to have done this, where they find a city or an area where they're like, I'm just going to saturate this particular with like
Mhm.
a very specific demographic, and it'll feel like we're a lot bigger, like within
Exactly.
that group, because everyone will be recommending it to everyone, and they'll see it in a few different places. And I feel like when you've got such limited budget in the beginning, it is just like a really smart way to grow. It seems to still work today.
Mhm. Yeah, we do that now, like,
Yeah.
we'll pick a few cities where we'll run specific ads, we'll blanket events everywhere parents are going, there's Little Spoon being
Mm.
sampled, and I mean, it works, you see an uptick in those certain geo-targeted areas when you do things like that.
Okay, amazing. So you had this person who was boots on the ground doing this kind of like community building, sampling, scrappy marketing. What else were you doing in that first year?
It was a lot of just, like, working out kinks with the website and shipping. Our product was perishable, so figuring out how to really commercialize and operationalize selling perishable baby food and shipping it to people.
Yeah.
And then thinking about what we were gonna launch next because we launched with, like I said, 10 SKUs of baby food. We found out very quickly that we needed to have more options for people, but as fast as we were acquiring customers, they were churning out because babies only eat baby food for a finite period of time.
True.
So they typically start eating food around 6 months, and some people start feeding their kids solid food as early as 9 or 10 months. So they would only be with us for a few months. We were paying to acquire these customers, but then they were leaving us only a few months later. So we really wanted to keep them around and keep them on our platform and find more ways to keep them engaged. So the first year was also really building out a product roadmap and kind of figuring out using consumer insights and figuring out what we wanted to launch next.
How you when people say like using consumer insights, what are some of those things that you did to actually figure out, okay, we're gonna launch like toddler food, I'm guessing is
Mhm.
what it was next.
Yep.
And this is what we're gonna launch and this is what they want. Like were you doing surveys? Were you having phone calls? Was it like how were you getting that info?
Yeah, it was everything. It was surveys, phone calls, it was making samples of potential new things, sending them to a small subset of people, getting them to try them with their kids, give us feedback,
Mm,
really just gathering insights any way we could. I think the beauty of our business model, direct to consumer, is like you do have that one-to-one relationship with that customer, and that's one of the things that we've really had a strong emphasis on throughout the growth of the brand is having that flywheel, that customer feedback loop that really has helped us inform all of our product decisions that we've made. I think if you're selling in traditional retail, it's a little harder to get that feedback. You're kind of relying on syndicated data, sales. With direct to consumer, I mean, we have real-time data on everything that's selling. We're the first line of defense. If they have an issue, if they have something to say, if they like something, they're reaching out to us directly. So it was really easy for us to, gather those types of insights.
for founders and brands who are in their first few years of business and they just like want to get into one of those big chain retailers, and it's not working. Like, what advice do you have for them based on your experience? Because it feels like you said before, like the fact that you went to D2C straight away and focused on that for a significant amount of time really paid off.
Mhm. Oh, geez. I don't know. That's a tough question because it really depends on the product. I think if I were to launch a brand now and wanted to launch it in retail, I would walk before I ran. I think try to find like a small regional retailer that you can get in and really like, knock it out of the park and try to
Mm.
prove yourself, prove out metrics that you can then take to some of these bigger retailers and say this is resonating with a smaller retailer in a smaller space. And I think having that data will only help you.
What kind of data?
Just customer sales data, understanding how products are performing at a SKU level, really just understanding what's resonating with the customer, and then it will help, the buyer at a bigger retailer. It'll make their decision that much easier to hopefully bring your product in.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, it's like with anything, right? If you've got a case study and somebody else that it's worked for, then people are going to be more likely to trust you.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about money. I want to know how
Yeah.
much it costs to start this thing.
So it cost about $200,000 in
Okay.
savings, which was a lot of money at the time. Most of that went toward we had to buy some equipment, some expensive equipment to put in the tamale factory. We had to create custom packaging, so we had to like purchase, first find packaging suppliers that were even willing to work with our small minimums and purchase tooling for custom
Hmm.
packaging. So that was really where I'd say the bulk of the expenses came from.
Okay. And then did you end up raising money?
We did raise money. We raised like an angel round, which was like 1.25 million. So we raised that. We met a handful of investors and we exhibited at our first expo, which is there's a big natural products show that if any food and beverage girlies are listening, they should totally go to Natural Products Expo West. It's in Anaheim every year. It's one of the best shows. So we were exhibiting there, met a few investors. When they invested, they thought we were going to launch in retail and they were because they were retail people, and so when we decided to pivot to direct to consumer, they weren't exactly thrilled, but we were like, "Just trust us. We think this is the right decision." But we raised 1.25 million from them.
Okay,
Yeah.
amazing. And do you disclose how much you've raised since, or is that
No,
like not to put you on the spot?
no, you don't wanna
Yeah, no, totally fine.
yeah.
And when did you start paying yourself?
We started paying ourselves we were giving ourselves, like, a modest salary, but we raised a Series A in January 2020, and that was when we started taking
Like
our
properly,
first
yeah.
properly taking a
It's like a few
salary.
years,
Yeah, a few years.
which people don't talk about enough. Takes
No.
can take a long time.
Yeah.
So were you living on savings? Were you doing like other consulting work? How were you living?
Yeah, no, I was living on savings. Luckily, I had savings from the business that I started in
Yeah.
college, so that really helped.
Did you immediately shut down that business when you started Little Spoon, or did you like keep it kind of running
No,
in
I
the
mean, no,
background?
actually, I did shut it down, and then for a brief period of time, I worked not in food, but I worked in television production right
Oh,
after college because I thought maybe that was something that I wanted to do, and then I very quickly was like, "No,
no.
actually, this is not something that I wanna do."
Also, I think it's pretty hard to go from being your own boss to then working for someone else. Like
Yeah. Yes,
that's
it
a tough
is.
transition.
It is.
You've just had this incredible launch in Target. Quite a few years into the business now. So are you 7 years in?
Yeah, we'll
8 years
be
in?
8 in
Yeah.
November.
Why was now the right time?
I mean, we have really grown the business, scaled the business in the last 7 years. We hit sustained profitability in 2024. Like, we've sold over 80 million meals. We have a really loyal customer base on the direct to consumer side and, over 120 SKUs. And we started talking to Target probably about a year ago. They were interested in bringing in some Little Spoon products, and because we have products across 8 different categories on our website, we really wanted to make sure that whatever retail partner we chose was going to get behind our full line of products. What makes Little Spoon so unique is that we are a full platform of products. We're not building products around a single category. We're not just a pouch brand or just a kids snack brand. We have products that span every age and stage, snacks, meals, baby cereal, you name it, we have it. And so when we went into retail, we wanted to make sure it wasn't just with like a handful of products, but we wanted to go in a really meaningful way and go in the same way that we've kind of built out our direct to consumer platform, and Target was just the best partner and the right partner for that. They really got behind us with this launch, and so we launched with 23 SKUs across 6 categories in 1,800 of their stores,
Wow.
which is honestly unheard of. It's the biggest food and beverage launch in Target's history.
Wow.
Typically, if you're a newer brand, they'll take in a handful of SKUs and put you in a few hundred stores to test you. So I think because, we were able to come to them and say, look, we've built out this direct to consumer business. We have a very loyal customer base. They already knew that it was resonating with parents. And so that gave them the conviction they needed to really go all in with us in a big way.
How do you plan a launch like that? Because you obviously, it's one thing to get on the shelf, it's another thing to get off the shelf.
Yeah.
What are you doing from a marketing perspective?
From a marketing perspective, we're doing everything.
Everything?
Yeah, so we have this is definitely, like, one of the biggest campaign moments we've ever done. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we just launched this 3 days ago. So if you if you go to, Little Spoon's Instagram now, we've done collab posts with Target. We're running 3 television commercials right now. We're doing a ton of out of home. So we have billboards, we'll have vinyls on sidewalk, we'll have
Mm.
flyaway posters, and we're actually doing those in geo-targeted cities. So we're Minneapolis, Chicago. We're gonna be running them here in New York. What else? A whole influencer campaign. I mean, you name it, we're doing it. Just all kinds of fun marketing things.
One thing I'm curious about listening to your story, so you started focused on New York and, I guess, like, the coastal cities, and then I hear as you've scaled and a Target launch, like, would indicate this as well, you've obviously, like, really conquered, like, the rest of America as
Mhm.
well, and I don't know how someone does that. Like, how do you take the brand from being something that is maybe something that is used by, like, a very specific person in, like, New York or LA or San Francisco, and then make it something that is a household product all throughout America?
I mean, I really think that the direct to consumer nature of our business has helped us reach so many different
Mm.
types of consumers. And like I said, because we're not offering a single category of product, we're really offering all different types of products that people can kind of work into their routines in different ways. We've been able to reach, households all across the country in that way.
I wanna talk about your team a little bit. So you have
Yeah.
100 on the team now, right?
Yeah, 110.
Who was your first hire?
Our first hire was grassroots marketing
Yeah.
here in New
Oh, yeah, yeah,
York.
yeah, of course.
Yep. And then a few other people on the marketing side. So we have someone who's been with us from the very beginning. She's our chief brand officer now. Her name's Karen. So she's in charge of all of our brand marketing efforts and so much more. And then we had another one of our first hires was an operations hire because the business was so operations heavy. We needed help on that side.
You've scaled up this team from a handful of people through to 100.
Mhm.
For people who are making those decisions around first hires and team building, how do you make those decisions about who to bring in and how to create the kind of, like, culture and vibe that you want within that team?
I think what we have an amazing company culture and we've had a great culture from day one. And I think what has made our culture so unique is that I'm just as involved today as I
Mm.
was from the beginning, as is, my husband, who is our CEO. I mean, we will roll up our sleeves. We've been there. I mean, we were making food by hand at a small life factory. So I think, just understanding what everyone's role is.
So for people who are trying to make that decision around early hires and who to bring into the team, when someone's sitting across from you in an interview and you're trying to decide whether they're the right person or the wrong person, or when you're trying to decide like what role to fill next, like how do you make those decisions and what advice do you have for people who are trying to make those decisions? Like for me, I'm a few years into the business.
Mhm.
We've got a small team. There's like 3 or 4 of us, and I feel like I need help with, like, everything.
Mhm.
How do you decide, like, whether to bring in a generalist or someone who's a specialist or, like, where to focus?
Yeah, it's a great question. In the early days, we definitely hired generalists
Yeah.
because there were so many hats that needed to be worn. We really needed people who could like roll up their sleeves and do anything that we
Mm.
asked them to. I mean, we had people that we hired to do marketing things that were doing operations type things. We had people that would get looped into just like helping us out with an event that we were throwing or something, even though that wasn't their job at all. So we hired a lot of generalists in the beginning, and then I think as the company grew, 3 or 4 years in, we were like, "Okay, now we need some specialists because there are areas of the business that we really need to scale," and generalists in the beginning are great because they can wear so many hats, but as we grew, it was like, "Okay, we need to really hire people that know a very certain area of the business, like performance marketing,
Yeah.
who can really just help take this to the next level."
Yeah. And then how do you up level as a leader when you go from having this small team through to, like, leading a team of 100 people at a massive compared to where you started, like, definitely company? Like, how does a person up level in that way?
Mhm. Don't be afraid to hire people that are smarter than you.
Yeah. Which, like, people say, but, like, can we actually talk about that? Because it actually is scary feeling like you have to be the boss of someone who just knows so much more than you.
Yep. It can be
It is
intimidating. Like,
intimidating.
sometimes I'm in a meeting and I'm just like,
Yeah, what am I adding
yeah,
here?
yeah, exactly.
Why
Like,
am I
I
here?
should I just leave? Because I think you guys have it under control. Seriously, hire people that are smarter than you, and
Mm,
don't be afraid to do that because that's really how you're gonna uplevel your business and take everything to the next level.
mm.
You're doing a disservice to yourself if you're not doing that. And I think now that our team is 110 people, I get to I get to have the luxury of focusing on things that give me energy and that I enjoy. So, like, the things that maybe I used to not enjoy so much, I can offload onto some of these specialists who, like, they're really good at them,
Yeah.
and I can focus on growing the business and doing things that I really like and where I can be additive.
I think that there's something around having the confidence to hire people that are smarter than you as well. I think it can be, you can feel, or like, speak for myself. I feel like sometimes when I look at CVs coming in or the kind of person that I'd want to bring into the team, I feel like I'm the one that should know the most, or if I'm leading this thing, like, who am I to bring in somebody who is so much more experienced or knows so much more than me? But you kind of need to have the confidence to back yourself and say, like, no, what I'm building is like worthy of them. There's
Yep.
something there, I think.
Yep,
Mm.
absolutely.
Okay. What else do I wanna talk about? Oh, you've mentioned expos, like, quite a few times,
Yeah.
and I wanna talk about expos.
Mhm.
Is this something that you think early brands should still be, like, spending the time and the money and going to expos, or are we just using fair now? Or, like,
Yeah, yeah,
where does it
yeah.
fit into everything in 2025?
I think it really depends on what your goals are and what your distribution is. So, I mean, expos are fun. Like they're really fun to be there. They're also very expensive to
Yes.
exhibit. I know of a lot of brands who just like go and walk the floor. They don't exhibit, but they'll still set up meetings with buyers and still like go to all the events and, be out there and they'll have samples of their product. I mean,
Mhm.
if I were to do it now, if I were just starting with a single product, that's what I would do. I mean, expos can be very expensive.
Yeah.
I think they're great if you've raised money and you have a big marketing budget and you want to be there and you're in a place where you can kind of just sell into many different retailers, then that's wonderful. But if you're really trying to focus your efforts on a single retailer or a single region, probably not worth it.
Okay, that's really good to know. Yeah, I'm always curious about it. I feel like I hear hit and miss, but from folks who started kind of earlier, maybe like 2014 to 2017, who went big on expos, seem to think that it's really worthwhile, and then folks who are like earlier and trying to start now are like, it's just like not, the money's not going as far.
Yeah, a lot of the younger brands, a lot of the founders I know, they don't go.
They're not
They're
doing
not
it.
into it. Yeah, but you'll see them walking around
Yeah,
like sliding their
yeah.
product to people.
Which, like, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I respect it.
Yeah.
If you were to start a business now, 2025, and Little Spoon had never happened,
Mhm.
what would you do and why? Like, where do you think there's still an interesting opportunity?
Mhm. I mean, I think there's still so many interesting opportunities in CPG
I'd love
food.
to hear that.
There's so many spaces that are untapped. There's so many legacy brands that need disrupted. I think there's tremendous opportunity there. If I had to start a business tomorrow, Little Spoon is wonderful. Like we've built an incredible line of products and brand. I'm just blown away by the business that we've been able to build. It's also been very operationally complex. So if I had to start a business tomorrow, I'd try to choose something that was, wouldn't have to deal with like refrigerated and perishable supply chain and shipping food. It's become very complex, and that's almost become like our secret sauce,
Yeah,
our
I was gonna
competitive
say, but
moat.
surely that just makes it harder for other people to
It
get in.
does for
Yeah,
sure, but I might
because,
choose
like, no
something a little
thanks. I don't
easier.
wanna figure that
Yeah,
out.
yeah, exactly.
I'll leave you guys to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would start a CPG brand, and what would you do? Like, what would be those steps you would do in the beginning to, like, get this thing off the ground or get traction?
I think man, there's so many things. When we started Little Spoon, also, like, social media and, like, building online was in its infancy. Now
Mhm.
you go on TikTok and Instagram and you see so many people building in public. That's a really helpful space. Not everyone wants to build in
Yeah.
public, I understand that, but even if you don't wanna build in public, consume the content of the people that are building in public. There's amazing free content out there of so many founders that are going through the early days of a startup, and you could really learn a lot.
Yeah, I always preach the build in public thing because I just hear so many stories from brands who get incredible opportunities because a buyer, press, like some influencer, an
Yep.
investor literally saw them on TikTok and
Mhm.
bought into their story.
Seriously, it matters, like and also if you're not tooting your own horn, no one's gonna toot it
So
for you.
true.
Like, you really have to be out there,
It's
and
so
you have
true.
to put yourself out there, and that's honestly something that I feel like I've learned within the last even, like, 2 to 3 years myself.
Mm.
Because earlier on when I started Little Spoon, when I started working on it, I was 24 years old. I was not a mom. I was like, "I am not a mom. I feel a little self-conscious about telling other parents what they should feed
Yeah.
their children." And at the time, we did have a 3rd co-founder who was a mom, so she was, helpful in that regard for sure, but, I wasn't out there, like, building a public, waving my baby food flag. My friends were like, "We're starting a baby food company? That's so random." Now all of them have kids, so now they get it, and their
Yeah.
fridge is full of Little Spoon. But truly, like, if you're not out there networking, meeting people, I mean, opportunities, if y the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities will find you.
The last thing I wanna ask you is for a resource recommendation, something that other people can go and check out who wanna build something like you've built.
I would like, for food in particular or just
I
any
mean,
type of
yeah, anything.
business?
I like the idea of something specific for food.
I think if you're thinking about building a food brand, not to like belabor expos, but go to food
Yep.
expos. You can try so many products, see so many different types of packaging, meet so many different types of founders. I mean, Expo West is like thousands of exhibitors. Like it's endless. It's a source of endless inspiration.
Mm.
I would for sure try to get a ticket and go to that. And
Also, it
again,
gets you out of your algorithm.
it does. It for sure
Go see
does.
something that's, like, not being served to you
Mhm,
by
and
Instagram.
there's companies from all over the world there
Yeah,
too, not just and yeah, and don't s you see the same things over and
totally.
over again on, Instagram and TikTok, so I think it helps put you out of that for sure.
Okay, that's really good advice.
Yeah.
And anything, like, more general around I don't know, I look at what you've built and, like, who you've become while you've been building it. I just think a lot of people are gonna be inspired by that. Is there anything that you've kind of invested in, explored, tried as you've been up-leveling yourself as a leader?
I think I've just
Do you have a
gr
leadership coach or anything?
no, I
No?
don't have a leadership
Mm.
coach. Anything I've explored or tried? I think just we've been building the plane while flying it. This is
Yeah.
really, like, my first business, so just taking learnings as they come. You're never gonna be perfect, but you can try your best and make sure that everyone around you knows that and understands that, and yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on Female Founder World. I am, like, in awe of what you've created, and it's so cool to be able to bring your story to our community.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
I just wanted to end the show with a quick shout out to all of our paid Business Bestie subscribers. For $12.99 a month, you get access to a weekly live call with mentors who we handpick from this podcast community. These are founders who have been on the show, experts and operators that are helping to build their businesses. And we want to give you access in a small group setting on live calls every single week so that you can get the mentorship and advice that you need to take your business to the next level. In addition to the live calls and the community, you also get access to a big database of workshop recordings, group coaching call recordings, templates, contact lists, and just all of the tools and resources that you need to make this business a success. Head to bestie.femalefounderworld.com or the link in the show notes to sign up now.